Week 1 of the 2025 NFL season is just about here. Today we're going to be going through the full slate of Week 1 games, picking every single game, going through our score predictions and picking them straight up and against the spread and kind of what we expect to happen in that first week of the season. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it here. Starting on Thursday Night Football, we have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, the Eagles are going to be hanging their Super Bowl banner. It's going to be an emotional night for them. It's a division rivalry game. I think that this is going to be a game that the Eagles do control because they can run the ball really effectively. They obviously have Saquon Barkley, who's fantastic, but this offensive line is really good. Cowboys' run defense is just not. Brian Schottenheimer is going to be in his first game as the Cowboys head coach, so there might be some new things that the Cowboys show, but ultimately I think Vic Fangio's defense should be able to help slow down this Cowboys passing attack. The Eagles are 6.5-point favorites. I do actually have the Cowboys covering that number, but the Eagles winning here 26-20. The next game is the Brazil game where we have the Chiefs taking on the Chargers. Going to be on Friday night, and that might equalize things a little bit when you're going to a new environment, an international game. That sometimes can make things a little bit tougher for the better team to sometimes win. I think the Chiefs also can sometimes start a little bit slowly, but ultimately they usually find a way to just get the win, even if it's not pretty. Harbaugh will want to try to control the trenches. We'll see how he's able to do that without Rashawn Slater on that offensive line. I do think some of the losses they sustained on the defensive line, guys like Poona Ford, Joey Bosa when he was healthy, I think they're going to need to prove that they can get after the passer, stop the run. So I do have the Chiefs winning this game 28-23 and, covering that 2.5-point spread as they are favorites in this one. The next one, we have an NFC South matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. This is going to be the first game for Josh Grizzard, the new offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll see kind of how he looks after the departure of Liam Cohen. Is Baker Mayfield able to continue his success from last season and the year before with Dave Canales as well? Michael Penix started the end of last season, but now they've finally gotten a chance to have a full camp with him, working with the starters, developing a game plan around him. But ultimately, Todd Bowles is a really good defensive coach. He'll mix things up, make things difficult. I think they'll throw some creative looks at them. The Buccaneers offense, they have a lot of weapons with Mike Evans, Mecca Buka. Even if Chris Godwin isn't ready to go, you also have Bucky Irving in that running game. So I think that this Buccaneers team will win. I think it'll be close and competitive because I like some of the things that the Falcons do offensively. But I have the Buccaneers winning 20-17, covering that 1.5-point spread. Next up, we have the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals are absolutely notorious for starting slow. This Browns defense has given them some issues in the past. Myles Garrett consistently shows up against this Bengals team. This is the first time that Burrow is going into a regular season, having a full training camp. He's fully healthy. The offense, has had all of their guys out there in preseason games, as has the defense. That's a new look for this Bengals team with an emphasis on trying to start faster this year. Hendrickson ended his holdout. He'll be at practice. It's all going to kind of come down to how Al Golden looks with a lot of these young pieces on defense. How quickly can they gel? How quickly can this defense potentially step up to not being one of the worst units in all of the league? The Browns, I think, are a far less interesting conversation. They're going to have Joe Flacco starting. This defense is going to be tough. They're going to be able to score some points against this Bengals defense as they try to figure things out, but I just don't think their offense has a very high ceiling at all. Bengals should win this game. It'll all just kind of come down to if they can get past that week 1 issues that they have been having consistently, but I do have them squeaking this one out 24-21. Don't have them covering that 5.5-point spread, but ultimately still winning this game. Next up, the Dolphins and the Colts. Tua is healthy coming into the season. Mike McDaniel always kind of seems to have some wrinkles and additions to the offense that can make, defenses confused and can be tough to figure out early on in the season. Daniel Jones is going to be the starter for this Colts team. I think this will be close. The Colts, are going to try to run the ball, have an effective defense with new defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo coming over from Cincinnati. Ultimately, I think this could be a very close game. I could see it going back and forth. It is a 0.5 spread. It's a true pick'em game, but I do have the Dolphins winning this one 27-26, a really close game that ultimately could come down to the final possession. Next, we have the Patriots and the Raiders. Both of these staffs are brand new. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly for this Raiders team. And then obviously you have Mike Vrabel coming over for the Patriots as well. Very excited to see what Drake May and this offense can do with a couple of new additions in their weapon room. You've got Travion Henderson, you've got Stephon Diggs. Chance that they can be an effective offense. It'll kind of come down to this offensive line, how they're able to protect Drake May, especially going up against one of the best pass rushers in the NFL and Max Crosby, who's back. And I think both of these teams will try to play some tough defense, run the ball really effectively. I can definitely see this being a lower scoring game as both of these teams try to figure things out offensively. I have the Patriots winning this one by 5, 21-16, and covering that 3.5 point spread at home. I think this should be an underrated, really fun matchup for week 1. Next up, we have the Cardinals and the Saints. I'm just not so high on the Saints offense this year in particular. I think regardless of which quarterback ends up being out there week 1, this team's really going to struggle to move the ball. And defensively, I think they're missing a ton of pieces as well. It also helps for me that I am high on the Cardinals. I really like this Cardinals defense, the addition that they've made to the front seven, adding Walter Nolan, adding Josh Sweat, a lot of NFL caliber guys to that room. And then you also have really good coaching with Jonathan Gannon and great playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Trey McBride. I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to break out a little bit this year as well. I like James Conner. I think that this Cardinals team is poised to have a pretty decent start to the season, and I do think they ultimately beat the Saints team 27-17. Certainly have them covering that 3.5 point spread as well. Next, the Steelers and the Jets. This is going to be a defensive bloodbath, I think. The Steelers are very familiar with what Justin Fields brings to the table since he was on their team last year. I do think the Jets are going to struggle to throw the ball. I like their offensive line, but outside of Garrett Wilson, they don't have great playmakers. I just don't trust Justin Fields in the true drop-back passing game as well. And I think the Steelers have a good enough defense to stop the run, force them into those third and long situations where they do have to drop back and throw and force Justin Fields to beat you, which I don't expect he's going to be able to do against this really strong defense. Offensively for the Steelers, I think it's going to take some time for things to kind of click a little bit. This is a young offensive line. You obviously bring it in Aaron Rodgers, but he relies so much on timing and an understanding with his wide receivers. DK Metcalf, they paid him a lot of money to bring him in here and be the number one for this team. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to develop that chemistry. For this game, I definitely expect it to be a low-scoring defensive battle. Aaron Glenn brought in to be a defensive coach for the Jets as well. So I have the Steelers winning this one 20-13, Pittsburgh covering that 2.5 point spread as well. Next, we have the Commanders and the Giants. This one, I think the Giants' defensive line is going to be really tough to deal with. Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, a lot of real talent on this defensive front. The Commanders do have an offensive line that performed pretty well last year. I think there's some good pieces to it. Terry McLaurin coming back from his holdout after he signed that extension. So, I think that this Commanders offense is going to do pretty well. I think Jaden Daniels is really poised. If anyone can kind of handle that rush, I think Jaden Daniels is well positioned to do that. I think defensively, the Commanders maybe do have a little bit more holes than they showed based on their play last year, but against this Giants offense, which I just don't expect to be particularly effective, I think the Commanders will win this one. Even if it is a little bit closer, I have this one 24-17. That is enough for Washington to cover the spread and win this NFC East matchup. Next, we have the Panthers and the Jaguars. Bryce Young and this Panthers team certainly looked better down the stretch last season, and they're hoping to carry that over into this next season. You go in and you add Ted McMillan, who I think has developed a really nice chemistry in camp with Bryce Young. They're certainly healthier on defense. You have J.C. Horn, Derek Brown. Still think there's definitely some missing pieces there when it comes to the talent on that defensive roster, but the Jags certainly are not a complete team either. Trevor Lawrence in these skill positions with Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, it's going to be exciting to see what he can do in his first NFL action. But ultimately, I like the Panthers to win this one 23-19, have them pulling that upset and covering the spread in which Jacksonville are favorites. Next, the Broncos and the Titans. This is one of the best defenses in football in Denver, and that is a very tough first matchup for Cam Ward. I think the Broncos ultimately are going to cause a lot of confusion for Ward. It's going to be a little bit of a tough NFL debut for him, just because this Titans offense still doesn't have a ton of playmakers. Calvin Ridley, I think, is a solid wide receiver, but I think you put Pat Surtain on him, and then all of a sudden this Titans offense lacks a little bit of explosiveness. I think the Broncos offense with Bo Nix and Sean Payton are going to be able to move the ball against this Titans defense, and I do have the Broncos winning this one pretty handedly, 27-14, and covering that 6.5-point spread. Next, the 49ers and the Seahawks. The Niners are still dealing with a Brandon Ayuk injury, but overall are far healthier than they were last season. It'd be hard to not be healthier. You have one of the best offensive minds in all of football with Kyle Shanahan going up against one of the best defensive minds in Mike McDonald for the Seahawks. I think with McCaffrey back, I think the 49ers do end up taking this one in a tough divisional win. I could see this one going either way, but I think it might take a little bit for Sam Darnold and the new offensive coordinator to kind of settle in and find their rhythm offensively, especially with no DK Metcalf on that team. So I do have the Niners winning this one 24-20. Moving into the NFC North, we have the Packers taking on the Lions. This is a very fun matchup. You know, both of these teams, I think, do have playoff hopes, divisional win hopes as well. This should be a very interesting one. It's a pick'em game, essentially. It's in Green Bay, which I do think certainly helps the Packers. The Lions, I do think, will be good this year, but could get off to a little bit of a slower start, trying to replace the production that, Ben Johnson was able to scheme up. The defensive coaching from Aaron Glenn. The Packers are coming into this year with healthy Jordan Love. This will be a tough matchup, but I ultimately do think that the Packers just have the continuity on their side. They're playing at home. NFC North, tough divisional matchup. I have them winning this one 24-20 as well. Next, we have the Texans and the Rams. The big question with this one is, will Stafford have any rust after being out all of camp? Is he going to be fully healthy for this matchup? I love this Texans defense. I think that, this is going to be a tough environment for Stafford to come into, not having all of those reps, working with, his guys throughout camp and everything. This Texans defense absolutely has a chance to be the best in the NFL this year. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Derek Stingley. There is some high-end talent on this team. Now, the offense, I think, is good outside of the offensive line, and they're going to have a very tough matchup in this one, going up against Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and this really feisty Rams defensive front seven. But ultimately, I trust CJ Stroud and his playmakers, as well as D'Amico Ryans in this defense, to pull off a pretty tight win here, just as Stafford's getting back into form. So I have them winning 24-22 in a very close one. Next, an absolutely epic Sunday Night Football Week 1 matchup here. The rematch of the divisional round where the Bills knocked the Ravens out of the playoffs. It's Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. Really, just take your pick here. These are two of the best teams in the entire NFL. I just like the overall defense and roster talent of this Ravens team to squeak out a Week 1 victory, looking for a little bit of a revenge. I think Buffalo's favored since they're at home, but really this is a true kind of pick-em type game. I have the Ravens winning this one 28-27 in a very, very close one. And then the Monday Night Football matchup, we have another NFC North battle. This is between the Vikings and the Bears. How quickly can Ben Johnson get this offense in Chicago moving? Can Caleb Williams be a little bit quicker to get that ball out, play on time a little bit more, and still go off script and be impressive, which really is what makes Caleb Williams. And then on the Viking side, obviously you're starting a new quarterback in J.J. McCarthy this year. Jordan Addison's going to be suspended. Can Kevin O'Connell create this environment and scheme open plays where J.J. McCarthy can be effective in what's essentially his rookie season? I think this will be another close game, but I do trust Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell and this Vikings infrastructure to come out with this one as the Bears are still trying to kind of figure things out. I have them winning 23-20. So those are my Week 1 predictions. Drop your predictions in the comments down below. If you like this kind of content, please hit that subscribe button. While you're down there, hit the like button as well. Going to be coming out with tons of NFL content, definitely NFL draft content as well, so you won't want to miss any of that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.